Hey, what's up? I'm Jacob. This is footage from a practice round I played yesterday at the Blistering Pines course for the Battle in the Pines 3 practice round. Coming up tomorrow, Saturday, January 21st. I'll be playing in MA1. Wanted to get some footage of the holes on this course out and visible to some friends that weren't able to get out to the practice round. The other course was not open, but I think it plays a little bit harder than this one. I found this course to be rather scoreable. However, being in the open wind can be problematic. So starting off here, hole 1, par 4, 498 feet. There's a cart path that goes down the left and kind of long around the water. If you cross or get onto that cart path at any point, it's out of bounds. Otherwise, the basket is down here, kind of, if you see where this golf cart is, it's just in up to the right. You really can get a backhand roller up there, but I just threw an undertaker kind of down towards the cart path, and it's going to leave me with a short little approach shot into the green. The main problem I saw in this hole was the headwind, turning people's discs over really hard into the trees. So I think your best bet is to try to put something out there down the fairway, and then just have an easy approach shot into the green after that. That one I just threw turned into a roller by accident and got up by the like circle 2 maybe. This is my first drive. Probably want to throw it a little shorter than this so I don't risk the cart path as much. But this is the approach shot that I am left with after that first drive. I did try to edit down the footage to make this a shorter video. I had something like an hour of footage, so it's edited down to be about half hour, I think. But I think we're opening up here with a pretty scoreable par 4. It doesn't require very long shots. You could throw mid-range or mid-range putter probably. Yeah, it's only, what, 500 feet less or total. But here we are, hole 2. It's a 270-foot shot over water, and the water is out of bounds. There's a drop zone. I think it was about circle 2. I'm just throwing an overstable forehand, hanging it out over the lane, throwing it at the basket. And that's my play. Just be considerate of the wind on that hole. Left with this little putt. I think the forehand I like a lot because I get to hang it out over land instead of hanging it out over the water, and then just let the disc over stability bring it across to the basket. Here's your tee shot on hole 3. It's a par 5, 950 feet. There's water on the left and the right, so make sure to throw it low. I think throwing it low would be important because if you throw it too high, it can stall out, go in the water on the left, and if it's low enough, hopefully it would not turn over so far as to go in the water on the right. Not very deep. I haven't bagged it much. But that was a nuke I threw, ended up right here in the middle of the fairway, played about perfect. This is your second shot. Ideally, you'll kind of see the fairway get narrow right here. You really only need to be just short of it. Where these kind of tall grass bunches that you can see here are, there is water here, and I believe it's playing as out of bounds. There's also water still all down the left, so you can either try to get over this and rip one over it when it opens up and there's some dry area over there, or you can play one short of it. Being a little bit short of it is perfectly fine. You have you're plenty close enough to the pin to get into the green from there. It might be 270 feet or so. Especially with how windy it is. There's a very strong headwind when we're here right now. So I have chosen a servo, and I'm just going to throw it and see what happens. So yeah, that disc never turns over that much, but it is in a pretty big headwind. So it needs to be shorter than that. How that disc just flew, you either need to throw it 30 feet longer or 20 feet shorter to be real safe with it, because I was on the edge of this water right here. You can now see the basket. It's on the other side of this golf green, kind of just to the left of the split tree. That's it. It's by those on the other side of the green, straight over there. Yeah. That approach shot. Oh, I got in the way of it. I was going to try to tell you. I think it ended up being pretty good. That was a good approach shot. I'm going to go with a forehand into it. Again, the basket's right about here. Yeah, so that came in a little too overstable, and I think I kind of skipped off the cart path and ended up over here. Yeah, He threw the approach shot just before mine, so if you want to go see what a good approach shot looks like for the hole, you can go back and rewatch the one that he threw right before I threw mine. Yeah, so my forehand ended up putting me over there. I had a nice gap in the tree, but didn't quite hit the line on the putt, had the height. I think this hole is definitely one where people are potentially both going to lose some strokes and lose some discs as well. So I think, just keep it in play and you'll be fine on the hole. But that is easier said than done when there is as much wind out there as there was today. Hole 4, par 3, 319 feet. OB, cart path and beyond. You can see the cart path goes down the left and it's also behind the basket. The basket is perched up here to the back left of this golf green. I believe also bunkers are hazard. I'm not sure if there were bunkers around that golf green. That's a pretty good tee shot. I think you need to hang it out a little bit wider than that. That'll be maybe circle's edge. This is me. I'm throwing a nuke because it's a bit uphill, so I'm just planning to throw the nuke on a big hyzer and have it come into the basket. Got a little wind lift there. That actually ends up skipping across the cart path.
Was it a nuke again? Yeah.
So this is me trying again. I'm throwing a volt this time. Excuse me. And there's a little bit of awkward footing on this tee pad. That vault ends up good. It ends up in circle 1. But there is a weird step up onto the cart path here. So just be mindful. Right. Try to be confident about it, but maybe have a little bit of a slower run up than you normally do in order to have your footing, be a little more secure as you step onto that cart path. So here's the green again. That nuke went long, skipped across the cart path. On the cart path and across, playing as OB, so I would drop here and have a par putt. The volt, I don't know if I picked the volt up already. The volt was 20 feet, I think, or something like that. Hole 5, par 3, 370 feet. The water back here is out of bounds. Basket is right here. So at first I'm going to try to throw a crave and throw it right here flat and have it turn over and glide down to the basket. Obviously, I did not do that, but it didn't hit any part of that tree. That ends up like 50, 60 feet, I think, left. Now I'm going to throw a really overstable 13 speed, a reverb, right here, and try to let it skip over to the basket. I kind of stood in the way of it, but that ends up in the circle. Yeah, so that reverb I threw, that really overstable one on the wide hyzer, ended up right here at 20 feet or so. I think that'll definitely be my play tomorrow. Yeah, and here's where my first shot, that crave, ended up. I'm going to throw that crave flatter and lower to the left. Almost. Looks like I didn't quite clip this one down. All right, here we are. Hole 6, par 3, 307 feet. You can see the basket right here. This guy's... I'm sorry, man. I can't remember your name. He might be Corey or Chris. He threw a forehand at it down this kind of line. I'm electing for a backhand hyzer up here to the basket, because all I have to do is miss the first tree, and then my worst case scenario after that is basically a circle 2 putt. I'm going to rewind just one time because I did not think to read the OB rules. Water is OB. That's it. Okay, so the cart path is not, you don't need to consider the cart path for OB or anything like that. So again, my play is going to be this backhand hyzer. It ended up right here, edge of circle or so, and I could probably throw that a little better. Here's a look at the backhand shot. pretty good.
I'm a little short, but that's what I want. You're like in the bullseye.
I can't exactly recall where that one ended up, but it looked pretty good. That one looks turned over just a bit too much, but still down there on the green. If you played here last year, other than the hole 3 par 5 on this course that we've seen so far, I think you might be able to tell it seems a little more scoreable than the course I remember playing last year, which will be the other course we play tomorrow. Not that I found the other course to be terribly difficult, but it was more of... I didn't find it too difficult to make pars on the course last year, but some of the holes were a little more testing in terms of distance, if I recall correctly. So here's where that vault ended up. Even that second shot with that reverb ended up circle 2, but this is a hole you probably want to make sure you pick up. Tailwind knocked that putt down. Watch how high I throw this. Yeah, Tailwind just dropped it. So maybe do a little bit of prep. Watch some videos, read some blog posts or forum posts about playing disc golf in the wind. Maybe there's some advice out there from folks from Kansas that can help us out this weekend. I'm going to try to flex a zone through the gap in the trees in the middle. Because they're staggered, I feel like the Anheuser kind of will make that gap a little bit wider. I didn't hit the gap anyway, but I did get through. That ends up being a little bit short with that kind of zone shot, so I need to throw that a little flatter to get it to push just a bit farther. Here's a look. My zone ended up, here's the basket. My zone is like back up here short. So I need to throw that shot that I threw a little flatter to get it to push far enough.
Yeah. Oh, really, dude? Well, play it out.
Almost. All right, hole 3. That's a 250-foot forehand for a righty. Sorry, once this graphic goes away, yeah, you can see those overhang limbs. So you either want to play wide of those or under them. I don't know if that hit any of those. Here's me throwing one. I don't, spoiler alert, I don't really throw this very good. Yeah, so that's short and inside.
Oh, put some backspin on that one.
And this is where it ended up. So tomorrow, I'm probably going to forehand a volt, get it out a little wider and higher, and make sure to push it up there to the basket. Funny enough, my best shot was actually I threw a lefty. We all threw a lefty one for fun, and that actually ended up being my best shot on the hole. Just a lefty backhand. All right, hole 9. It's marked as 350 feet. I buy it. I think it's about 350. Pins up there on a really tall mound. I think someone on our card used a rangefinder and shot it at about 330, but 330 to 350 sounds accurate to me. I just want to be careful because this is a bit of a death putt. If you go past, you will have a challenging uphill putt back at it. Like this putt, that doesn't go too far past. I stay up mostly on the same level as the basket, but any farther and I would have gone down the hill. Hole 10, par 3, 210 feet. The basket, I couldn't really get a camera angle where you could see the basket, but it's just behind this bunker lip by these trees back here. So I'm throwing a berg. Turn it over a bit much. So the berg ended up here. The basket is about here. This is a really good shot if I recall. That's why I made sure to include it. That right there is more or less parked. So that's about exactly where you'd want your shot to finish. This is a nuclear sea otter from Wild Discs. That ends up going long. There is a cart path behind the green. Forgive me, I am forgetting to talk about the hazards on the hole. So OB, there's a cart path behind the pin. It kind of runs back here. So if you do go long in the pin, it'll be OB. And also, if you were to land in this bunker, it's playing as a hazard, I believe. So you would play out of the bunker with a penalty stroke. Okay, I can resume now. So this one ends up going sliding out into the cart path back here long. So that's OB. This is my first one with the Berg. It's what I'm planning to throw tomorrow. Just turned it over a little too much. So I need to throw it more online with a basket or with a little more hyzer, and it would be pretty good. All right, hole 11, par 3, 298 feet. Cart path and beyond down the right is OB. So this cart path here follows kind of this side of the hole. Being on it or to the right of it ends up being OB. I'm going to throw a reactor, kind of like a buzz, on a bit of hyzer and just try to bring it in the basket. That works out pretty good. Hooked up nice at the end, and I am in the circle with that. This is a servo, so this is like a stable-ish 7-speed. Trying it out on some hyzer with a kind of a smooth shot. And that ends up just going a bit long in the basket. I'm probably edge of the circle long with that. So I think you only really need a mid-range or even a putter. I'm going to throw, this is an Envy. Yeah, so that Envy just about hit the basket. So putter mid-range on this one works out the best, I think. That's where my reactor finished, so my first shot. Hole 12, 549 feet. Where these guys are down here, they just finished up the hole. The basket is in, like, there's a fence back here that goes like this. And if you're in the fence, you're good. But outside the fence, I guess in this kind of area, is out of bounds. Otherwise, there's no out of bounds. And the creek, there's a creek also that runs back here behind the woods. And maybe it runs around it as well. But there's a creek kind of over here that's out of bounds. But it's kind of in the trees a little bit, so it's hard to see off the tee box. I'm throwing a Kahoo XG from RPM discs. That's a little flippy. Turns over to the right, but even that is just fine. I have a zone kind of approach to the green from there. This is also a Kahoo XG, but a little more stable. And that one's pretty perfect. Just skips out a little left at the end. My first shot, I did not record it from, but I actually forehanded my zone into the creek on the left. So you'll see me look for it in a second here, but short of the fence to the left, there's a creek here. So I actually threw my approach from my first disc into there. But otherwise from here, you just got to make sure to be inside the fence. As long as I think you don't throw it too high, you should be just fine. If you throw it too high, it might stall out or something like that. But yeah, so there's a creek back here, and that's where my actual approach shot had gone. And that's where the Berg I flicked to the pin, hit a branch, and fell down to. Hole 13, 630 feet. The hole is going to be kind of a dogleg right, so you can see this cart path on the sign here goes up here and to the right, and I apologize, I've got the camera blocked a little bit at the moment, but the cart path is going to do that. Everything inside the cart path over here on the right and or on the cart path is considered out of bounds. There's also a golf green up here with a bunker, and the bunker is playing as hazard. Might be hard to see. There is like a trash can up on the corner right up here that you can see, and that's a good landmarker to tell you where the corner is. I try to throw a construct, like a big driver turnover through it too low, but I end up in play. It's hard to reach the pin from there though. If you want to get a birdie, like that shot that lands right here requires about a 400-foot up shot. So if you get a bit more distance, it gets the birdie more in play. Right here, you can see there's like a tee marker and a trash can for a golf hole. This is a pretty good indicator of where the corner of this cart path is. So if you get past this or left of this up there, you're in the clear. Also, this wood line on the left thins out up here. So if you kind of smash a drive and it fades out left, but you're kind of clear of this stuff, I think you're pretty good to be on the left side up there, provided that you got enough distance. This is Kahoo XG again. That's just two left, obviously. I end up in those trees on the left. That is not a good place to be. I am short of where you would want. This is where that first drive ended that I threw a little too short. So from here, you can kind of see These two fir trees, the basket is just to the left of these, so it's right to the left of them. So if you aim at these fir trees and just try to have it be a little left of them, that's perfect. And I feel like it was about a 360 foot, maybe even 400 feet of distance from here to the pin. And this is the Thought Space Construct, really understable. That one ends up circle 2, maybe. I can't exactly recall. Yeah, so there you go. Pin's just there to the left of those fir trees. And this is the golf green. Bunkers around it are considered to play as hazard. Yeah, so here's where my first approach ended up. If I had thrown it a bit lower, a bit flatter, maybe it would have pushed up there. But just throw it too high and too much hyzer. Hole 14, par 3, 261 feet. As soon as the basket is visible, I'll try to point it out. There it is right there. It might play a little shorter than 261. I'm throwing a zone here. And plus the way the ground slopes and how kind of fast it plays, you're getting a lot of slide and kind of skip out to the left. So that zone actually skips a bit too far left. This is a more neutral disc. This is a wild disc sea otter. That ends up going too long, but more or less on a good amount of left to right. This is a forehand fireball. I like this play a lot more because the ground slopes from right to left, so that forehand coming in has slower ground play than the backhand. So I do like the forehand idea a lot. That was a volt that ended up, I think, being really good. Yeah, this is where the volt was, close to the basket, however obstructed by that tree. This is where my first backhand with the zone ended up. I think it landed close to the basket, but because of the slope of the ground and the pine straw and stuff making it play quickly, ended up over here across the cart path. However, there's no OB on this hole.
Still, your chances of
Right. Oh, sorry, man.
Hole 15, par 3, 254 feet. You can see our basket right there, and there's a cart path down the left.
Great shot.
And I believe they put this cart path down the left in, with this hyzer angle here opened up for the reason you're about to see. This is just a zone. And landed it, relatively close to the basket, but skipped out OB left. So I think it's extremely intentional for them to give you this big kind of righty backhand hyzer look, but then have a close OB on the left side behind it. So these other guys are throwing some pretty good shots down the middle, but I am fully committed to making this right gap work. So that time I took an overstable distance driver and skipped it early. I had thrown like 4 shots in the hole. I threw 3 hyzers down the right and 1 down the middle. My first 3 all ended up OB left, whether they skipped out of bounds or hit a tree and went out of bounds. But that last one, I put the hyzer gap out there, or I put a hyzer shot out the gap on the right, but had it hit the ground early enough such that the skip brought me to the basket instead of taking me across the cart path. Here we are, hole 16, 180 feet, maybe even 150 feet. There's an island around it that's about the size of the circle, and not a whole lot to say about it. It's right there in front of you, so just trying to throw you a good one. I throw that berg there and go a little long. That is just in the edge of being in bounds. Here's a little forehand skipper at it. And here's a little forehand zone. There's me picking up the zone and the reverb. And right there where I'm marking now is where my berg was. And it's just on the edge of the inbound circle. Hole 17, par 4, 487 feet. OB rolls, cart path and beyond right, and then bunkers are playing as hazard. Pardon me. So yeah, these bunkers around this golf green are playing as hazard, and this cart path on the left is not inbounds, although the basket is kind of close to it down here. So here's the golf green. Our basket is down the hill from it, right about down here. And I don't think it's quite 487 feet. I'd call it 410 feet. So for the higher divisions, it's probably playing more like a par 3 than it is a par 4. And I don't think you are caring about this cart path over here being out of bounds whatsoever. I say that, watch me be right tomorrow. But anyway, so the first thing I'm going to throw is a Kahoo XG. We're 100% playing this one as a par 3. Because again, it's not 487, it's like 410, 420 maybe. This thing tombstones into the golf green. We pulled it out and there was like no mark left over though, so it was good. This is a nuke, just gets turned over a bit too much, but that's pin high. That's just on the backside of the golf green, and it's pin high, but it's 60, 100 feet right. That's another Kahoo XG. This one ends up parked. Yeah, so that ends up pretty much parked. Yeah, here it was.
Thank you.
Oh, I did not film from my other disc locations, but here's the slope of the golf green. So the nuke again was pin high on the backside, and the first Kahoo XG that tombstone in the green was just up there. So that's about where the basket is on that one. Let me rewind a little bit. I was trying to see if I could say anything more helpful about this hole because I didn't provide a lot of footage up here from the green.
That's a pretty shot there.
But this last one, yeah, so right about here is the pin.
Thank you.
Hole 18, 690 foot par 4. Water is OB. Any disc that comes to rest inside of these tennis courts is out of bounds. I don't think you got to have a lot of distance to clear the water, I think. And your layup zone, I think, is around 250 to 270 feet playing downhill as well. Excuse me. I threw a zone there. The tricky part is you obviously don't want to throw it in the water, but you also need to get distance on this if you want to birdie it. The basket is, it's hard to tell. It's right here. Here it is. That yellow band right there is the basket. So from here, I think it's still about 400 feet. So it's a tough one because you want to get as much distance as you can off the tee in order to be able to birdie, but you also don't want to throw it in the water. So I threw a zone off the tee, and I might throw it with a little more power tomorrow, but putting it right about here is where I want to be. So it's a good spot. Here's that Kahoo. Just turned it over a bit too much. I end up hitting this fence right here, relatively close to the basket. And I will have kind of a circle 2 putt. This is a construct, too much hyzer. It flips up a bit, and then there's these dudes in a golf cart watching us play. And I smack them right on the windshield.
Yeah, there's some dudes in a car there.
Yeah, so that first one I threw, I guess, kind of hit this fence and ricocheted to here. So I had a pretty good putt to look at a 3. But that tail went knocking the putts down, so about had it on the second look. But anyway, so yeah, this was the Blistering Pines course for Battle on the Pines 3 out in Summerville. So if you're playing the tournament this weekend, tomorrow, best of luck. I hope you have a good time, and maybe I'll see you out there. Peace out.